Welcome back to Play Hard Playbook Home. The purpose of this series is to follow me as I go through my own home renovations. I'm renovating a 1950s home and I'm doing a complete home renovation, so it's a pretty big project. By following along with this series, you'll get to gain from some of my experience as a 10-year real estate veteran, learn from just some of the ups and downs that come with any home renovations, especially a larger project, and get some pointers on what you should do in your own home renovations. So this series is the third and final part of the budgeting series. Budgeting is so important when it comes to your home renovations. Almost anyone can do a renovation project, but doing it on budget and on time can be almost an impossible task. So we'll take a look at some of the things that are important that you think about when you're planning your budget. Over the first two series, we looked at some of the things that you should consider before we get to this particular series, which is advanced budgeting. In the first series, we took a look at some of the things you should research and know in your mind before you actually prepare your own budget. How to speak with your contractor, what are some standard rates in your particular area as far as the renovation project you're planning, and also what does it do to improve the value of your home are very important things that you should think about, and were covered in series 1. In series 2, we took a look at some of the basic things that you should do for advanced budgeting. Let's take a quick pick of what a standard budget should look like. So once you have your standard budget all set up, there are some things you can do and some other budgets you may want to add while you're planning things that can really give you some insight on the expenses that you're laying out, where you can save money, and where things will go over. Because in any sort of renovation, especially to an older home, there will be some surprises and there will be some overages. So preparing up front for them really gives you the upper hand in making sure that things don't just kabloom when you really need things to stay on budget. So in the advanced budgeting section, I've added some columns that I think are pretty standard but pretty important when it comes to doing a budget. The first one is just to take a look at the difference in the actual budget to the projected budget that you made at the beginning of the project. If you've done your research, you should have a pretty standard, solid footing on where everything should stand, how much money you want to spend. But of course, there's surprises, and then there's things that you may have planned for a budget and you can't find the materials exactly on key with the budget that you initially planned. So in that first column, we're going to take a look at what the differences are. If you, let's say, made a budget for a toilet for $100, and when you actually went to Home Depot, you fell in love with a toilet that cost $300, then you want to know what that difference is and quickly be able to see where you're over budget and where you're under budget. That's pretty important because where you're over budget, you may also be able to balance that with things that are under budget. So especially if you're looking at it from the under budget side, you know where you have some leeway and to spend some more money, maybe splurge on something you love but wasn't initially in your budget. So having those itemized become really important. The second part of that is doing a percentage. Some things may look like they're a big increase, but they may not be a big increase as far as the overall spending that you're going to do, nor are they a big increase to your overall budget. So knowing where those things stand, especially doing a quick calculation and pulling it down on an Excel spreadsheet, gives you some pretty good information pretty quickly. So you can say I'm 20% over budget here, but it only makes a 2% increase on my overall budget, and I'm okay with that. So those two columns are pretty important, and they also keep you on task and focused on the fact that renovations, no matter if you are doing it just to be pretty standard or you're going for a luxury renovation, have some impact on value. And if you don't keep in mind the overall changes to the value of your home, then when you go to sell your home or have your home appraised, you may be pretty disappointed as far as the overall improvement of value that your renovation projects have made to your overall value of your home. And that can be pretty disappointing when it comes to getting a loan or reselling the home for a bigger and better home. So those two columns are pretty important. Let's take a look how it makes changes to your overall budget. Now, of course, budgets can get a lot more advanced than those two particular changes. But instead of focusing time on all the other improvements you can make to your budget, I think it's important to add some different budgets that you may not initially plan for, but really help you keep your eye on the prize as far as staying on task and keeping to your budget. The first one is an itemized comparison sheet. The example I have for you guys is the expenses you may incur in a regular bathroom renovation. By listing out all these expenses, especially the ones you may be in charge of shopping for as opposed to your contractor, you really can keep an eye on where you find the best deal, what is involved, what details come with the best deal, and where you can quickly go back to make those purchases. In this sheet, I've done a 3-list comparison. So it compares the prices at 3 different stores or locations, or maybe 3 different models in the same store, of different features that you can select. If you want to take a quick think into it, if you, let's say you find a sink you like, it may seem pretty standard. Okay, I'll just pick a sink at $300. But when you actually go out and shop for it, there are a million options when it comes to sinks. And there may be a sale at Lowe's on Thursday and a sale at Home Depot on Friday. You'll find quickly that some of them have the same products, and a lot of them have different variations of products, and you have to find the one that's the best fit for you. So I love this sheet because you can put it on something that you carry around. You can add it to Words to Go, Docs to Go on your iPhone or your iPad, and you can do a quick comparison and see what is where. It can get really jumbled in your mind on where you found what you want and what the perfect item is. So making a quick comparison and keeping it with you really help you focus on what's the best deal and making sure that deal fits into your budget. So the final addition I think you should add is also a comparison sheet, but this time it's a comparison for flooring. Flooring can be a lot different than any other type of comparison because flooring comes in a lot of options. You may have really large 4-foot squares of flooring. You may have small pieces of tile that you want to use for a backsplash or add as a component to your flooring. So making sure you're comparing everything on a price per square foot or a price per whatever metrics you have becomes really important because it's the only way you can compare apples to apples. In this particular spreadsheet, I've broken it down to the amount of flooring that I need for a amount of square footage, and then for each option that I look at, I have some information where I give the sizes, which will give me the overall cost comparison for, let's say, a small towel versus a very large piece of travertine. So in doing so, you can quickly compare what your total cost would be. And this can add up really, really quickly when it comes to flooring. Especially if you're not paying attention, you may pick a flooring that's beautiful. You look at the piece, it says $2.84 per piece. But if that's a small piece, that may be double or triple the price of a larger piece that the size per square foot is a lot more money. So by paying attention to that, you really keep your eye on a budget and something that can add up pretty quickly. So doing a particular budget for this really gives you some insight, and again, gives you the ability to take things mobile with you. So you don't have to sit around and pull out your calculator and decide, okay, well, this one will actually cost this much. You can do it pretty quickly and know right on hand, hey, I'm on budget, this is in my budget, and let's go for it. So it gives you the ability to make decisions while you're shopping instead of having to go back and do some number crunching when you get home. So those are some simple tips that I think are important. We're calling it advanced budgeting, but really it's just some extra steps you can take to make sure that you start on budget and stay on budget in your renovation project. You can check out more information at Play Hard Playbook Home, our website www.playhardplaybook.com. Thanks.